Broncos country, what is up? It is currently Super Bowl Sunday, so hopefully the Eagles can get the job done today. But before the game, I'm here to talk about how should Broncos fans feel about Vance Joseph as our defensive coordinator going forward. Now, I just want to mention a couple things. First of all, leave a like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're not already. You can always wait until the end. Hopefully, I'll have earned it. My common question of the day is, how do you feel about Vance Joseph? Do you want him to be a mainstay on this team, on this coaching staff? Do you want him, to be replaced? Let me know in the comment section down below. Follow me on Twitter at Kodiak Broncos if you like what I have to say on here. Let's dive right into it. So, I was not happy when we hired him again. If I remember correctly, we had a really uninspiring list of potential defensive coordinator candidates when Sean Payton initially was hired to be our head coach, except for Brian Flores. I think that's the one I really wanted, but ultimately he ended up going to Minnesota. But this was a little puzzling to me. I thought 5 years after being fired was a little too soon for a guy like Vance Joseph to come back to this organization, especially when he had failed spectacularly. If he had succeeded, then there would have been a completely different story. But considering he was somebody who did not succeed as a head coach here, I thought, and some of the players that were still on the roster at the beginning of 2023 had played with him previously. I thought it was just a little too soon. But when it happened, I honestly thought, I think that there's validity to thinking that they considered Matt Patricia an option because they knew that the Broncos fan base was going to be really mad when we hired Vance Joseph again. And I especially didn't like this because the Saints under Sean Payton had a tendency to have very, very poor defenses, at least until 2017 onward. Like, the defenses under Sean Payton with the New Orleans Saints were never good. It didn't matter who they had as their defensive coordinator. Like, it just was tough sledding pretty much the whole time under the Drew Brees era. And that was a large part of why Drew Brees spent a lot of his prime not even making the playoffs. So, yeah, I was really concerned when we did hire Vance Joseph at first. And I think that a lot of the concern was completely warranted. And I don't think anybody had any, overreaction or anything like that. But I remember in 2017, that was the year that really, really pissed me off about Vance Joseph because I will agree that he wasn't necessarily given the fairest shake as a head coach when you're not given the chance to hire your own offensive coordinator and your own defensive coordinator. That's a pretty big deal. But when you get blown out in pretty much all of your losses, I'm pretty sure we had 6 or 7 double-digit losses in 2017, and he would always go to the media being like, "I don't understand how this is happening. We had a great week of work." And then we would always just be like, "Bro, you're clearly just not trying hard enough in practice." But 2018, we did look a little better, but even then, that was more on Lindsey. That was more on rookie year Chubb when he was still a real difference maker. That was still on Von Miller when he was good. That was still on Emmanuel Sanders and a bunch of other dudes from that year who, quite frankly, had us playing above our talent level. So then he gets fired at the end of that year. So at first, when Vance Joseph came back and was our defensive coordinator again, it was pretty rough. It was pretty rough. 2023, it started absolutely inexcusably bad, especially because we always had a fine defense. Even though, after the Super Bowl 50 team year, this team wasn't what it once was. But our defense was always fine. Our defense mainly gave us a chance. For years and years, it always felt like we were just all right, we're going to win this game 17-13. Hopefully, our defense can turn up, and hopefully the offense can just muster up enough life to, score points or whatever. But weeks 1 and 2 against the Commanders, and Raiders, both of those were at home. We could not ice the game, and they were weeks 1 and 2 early in the season, so that makes it even worse considering the teams hadn't had ample playing time or conditioning before that. But they were lost because of the defense not finding ways to ice the game. At the time, I was like, yeah, Sam Howell could be a dude. Now he's basically a backup in Seattle and just looked absolutely awful. So the fact that Vance Joseph's defense allowed him to score 35 points, not good at all. And also, the Jimmy Garoppolo Raiders were also our opponent in week 1 of 2023, and we couldn't get off the field on third down. Our pass rush was non-existent, and that was a big reason why we lost that game as well, because Russ honestly was kind of cooking those games. But week 3 against Miami, full-fledged disaster. But I will say that we were bare bones in the secondary that day. We also were starting way too many toxic veterans, and that's just kind of what happens when you get the absolute perfect storm. Miami early in the season, they had added so much speed over the course of, a 2-year period. It was just a perfect recipe for disaster. And ever since then, it's been us going upwards and it's been Miami going downwards. But I got to give Sean Payton credit for this because after that Miami game, literally everybody was saying, fire Vance Joseph, fire Vance Joseph. Because we were the worst defense in the league 3 weeks into 2023. And a lot of people are saying, yeah, this guy shouldn't have gotten the chance to do it anyway. And a younger, less experienced head coach probably would have made an emotionally charged decision And honestly, if Sean Payton had done that, his approval rating probably would have gone way up. Like on all those Monday morning talk shows in Denver sports radio, everybody would probably be saying, "Wow, great move! Like, good job on cutting your losses so soon." But listen, Sean Payton took a deep breath and was like, "Look, sometimes in the NFL these games happen." And the next two games also were not that good against the Bears and the Jets. But after that, we started to play much better because we made some changes. We cut some toxic bets. Randy Gregory, gone. Kareem Jackson, gone. Frank Clark, gone. We also got Simmons and Jewell and Baron Browning, he's worth mentioning here as well, back from injury, and we didn't have them in the Miami game. So, yeah. We also gave some young guys chances to succeed that, initially we didn't really have a spot for, or at least look to on the roster. But listen, the rest of 2023 was good, honestly. And it felt like this was a mini preview to what we were going to see in 2024. Was our defense like great at stifling and shutting down opposing offenses? No. But we played really, really hard. You could tell the defense was playing hard for one another, and they were the heartbeat behind that 5-game win streak, along with Samaje Perine and Russell Wilson checking down to him in the 2-minute drill. Now, I will say we had some nice turnover luck during our 5-game winning streak. I'm pretty sure we forced the most turnovers ever, and it was at an unsustainable amount. But I will say, for every one turnover that we got lucky, where, it just, Gabe Davis, I remember it hit his hands and then just bounced right into Justin Simmons' hands right behind him. We had 2 turnovers that were equally as lucky or manually caused by us, like Jaquan McMillan hunting for the football. One of our dudes causing a sack fumble, one of our dudes getting a pick or something like that. And also, McMillan and Benito also emerged, and they showed that they could really play in the NFL. McMillan in particular had an awesome year in 2023, but this was kind of Benito's like pre-breakout time. So yeah, but our offense let us down more than our defense in 2023. Like had our defense been playing the way we played all year, we probably would have made the playoffs, but our offense couldn't finish the job against New England and, other dudes like that, other teams like that. So this year absolutely shattered my expectations. And honestly, throughout the offseason, I didn't really know what to expect from the defense. Like my attention was solely focused on the offense and will Bo Nix look good? And I wasn't expecting us to have that good of a year. So honestly, I was more gearing up to where I was like, okay, I hope the offense is watchable. But the defense completely shattered our expectations. Like even week 1 in Seattle when Singleton got a pick right away and we forced a bunch of safeties, I was like, wow, this defense can kind of play. Now we ended up losing that game because the offense couldn't sustain any drives, and our defense did suffer as a result of that. But throughout the first 2 months of the year, oh my goodness, like going into New York and basically showing the whole world that Rodgers was washed was probably one of my favorite games post Super Bowl 50. Tampa Bay as well, just going into Tampa, 2-0 Buccaneers who completely beat the brakes off the Lions the week before, and then you come in to Tampa Bay and you sack Baker Mayfield 7 times. Yeah, I don't know. But all the recent acquisitions like John Franklin Myers, Brandon Jones, Malcolm Roach, they all paid dividends. But what made us really, really good this year is we had so much unforeseen development from guys like Zach Allen, Nick Benito, and Riley Moss. We thought that, Zach Allen, a multi-year veteran in the NFL, had hit his skill cap. But you know what? That was not true at all. And Nick Benito ascended into one of the game's very best. And Riley Moss, I was not expecting him to be anything. I was like, all right, if this guy couldn't get on the field, whatever, then I'm not expecting him to be anything. But I think a lot of that was due to the fact that he was hurt in the 2023 training camp. So I didn't really respect that enough when I was, when we were coming into the year. And I was like, all right, Riley Moss isn't going to be anything. He has shown out, and he's my favorite player on the whole team. It also remains to be credited to the position coach as well, like Jamar Cain, our pass rush coach, for getting the most sacks in Broncos history. 63, I believe it was this year, or 64 or something like that. And Jim Leonard. Jim Leonard had this secondary playing at a very, very high level pretty much the entirety of the year. He was instrumental in coaching Patrick Surtain to taking new heights that he had not been to previously in his career. He had helped develop Riley Moss. McMillan continued strong play. Chris Abrams' reign looked really, really good in limited game action. So yeah, Jim Leonard deserves credit for that as well. But I know why people are iffy on him. Like, he wasn't perfect this year. Our defense allowed a 50% conversion rate in our losses this year, which is just not good at all. Like, that's just bad. And we did get a little lucky, like in games against Cleveland and against Indianapolis, we're lucky that Jameis was throwing pick sixes to us, considering how poorly we had played on the defensive side of the ball the rest of the game. We were also very, very lucky against Indianapolis that A-Rich could not complete a pass after we had finally taken a lead once Jonathan Taylor had dropped that ball. But is Vance Joseph a true difference maker? I'm not entirely sure. But listen, coaches can develop just like players, and he has developed leaps and bounds as a head coach, so I'm not going to dispute that whatsoever. Like, we had no viable inside linebacker. We had no viable free safety. Yet the defense was humming for a lot of the year. The pass rush was going crazy. The secondary was playing absolutely great. And we didn't have the personnel to stop Baltimore and Buffalo running the football. So I'm not really going to fault Vance Joseph for that. That's more on the front office. That's more on our head coach for not getting a true nose tackle, for not getting true good inside linebackers. But when you're, barren with resources like the Broncos have been the past 2 years, there are some things that move very low on the priority list. I imagine that is going to get fixed this year. So, Mile High, added bonus that even though they got run over in those games, before I talk about the last slide, before we talk about that, we still had a really, really good run defense this year besides those two games. So, Mile High still achieved Vance Joseph. Like, this is the first year with Vance Joseph 2025 where I will be actively thinking of him as a strength. Anytime we've played the Chiefs, we played them defensively or as well as anyone defensively with Vance Joseph. And that includes 2018 as well. Our first game in 2018, we should have beat them. We should have beat them like 100%. Second game, our defense also kind of melted down that day. So I was like, oh, whatever. But 2023 and 2024, we have played them so well and so competitively, and we just stifle them in the red zone. So yes, maybe it is bend no break defense, but we have done a fantastic job against them. Better than probably anyone else in the league. And that has remained true for a number of years. We've just always lost to them because our offense couldn't get the job done. But for being one of the most scrutinized dudes, like, I gave Vance Joseph a lot of criticism. I've given him a lot of criticism. I love how he's progressed. I love that he's, gone from a meme who was having the time of his life to actively being a strength, in my opinion, on this coaching staff. Now, is he a top 10 defensive coordinator? I don't know. There's a lot of really good ones in the NFL, and we're going to need one more body of good work from him. Like, we're going to need our defense to repeat from this past year, not regress. If we regressed, I'd be very, very concerned. But coaches can develop just like players. And once again, Vance Joseph, I have no idea how you can look at him and say that he's not having the time of his life right now, because one thing that sticks out to me is even after he left here, he always was so, so appreciative of the opportunity. He was always so distraught that it didn't really work out here. And, if you watch 2022 Cardinals Hard Knocks, he had talked about he still had a lot of Broncos memorabilia. Like the game in 2022 when we played against the Cardinals, that was on Hard Knocks. And Vance Joseph had talked about how he was like distraught about how things ended here. So we're having a much happier second stint, and I'm just really happy that we all get to witness it. Great dude. True difference maker, I'm not entirely sure, but that is how I feel about Vance Joseph. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace. Mile High Salute.